Then on, there's no stopping the blob as it spreads from town to town. It's indestructible. It's indescribable. Nothing can stop it.
This town is in danger.
How can it be stopped? Mob hysteria sweeps one city. Before long, the nation, and then the world could fall before the blood-curdling threat of the blob.
Over the last year, I've made an intentional shift on this channel to talk more about demographics. I fully subscribe to the phrase, demographics are destiny, and I want to hammer the damn subject over the head as much as possible so more people, perhaps on the civic nationalist side of things, begin to understand. However, this is quite difficult to do at times because I, along with other content makers, usually have to rely on demographic projections and predictions, graphs and figures, to describe a future that we can't yet see in its most devastating form, but we all know it's coming. Well, I have something for you today that is as close as you're gonna get to the future of the West, fully observable right now in England. There's a place in Yorkshire called Savile Town. No, not that Savile, don't you worry. In the past, like many places in Yorkshire, the town was very industrial. While other places were known for coal mining or steel making, Savile Town was known for wool and cotton mills. There was a working class community of English men and women, working their hands to the bone to not only provide for their families, but also for the benefit of the wider society. England back then had a sense of itself, an identity. Everyone knew what England stood for and what an English person was. Now, this historic place is completely Islamised, and when I say completely, I'm not being hyperbolic, I mean it. In the 2011 census, only 48 people out of 4,033 residents were white British. I'm sure that number will be even lower today, and I can't wait to see the 2021 census. The rest of the residents are Muslims. Before we take a closer look, I have a question for any liberals or multiculturalists who may just happen to be watching. I doubt it, but it could happen. Is this your idea of diversity? Is this a step in the right direction? Would you be happy to see the entirety of the UK become like Savile Town in Yorkshire? I honestly want to know, and please try and answer that question as honestly as you can. Because the things that you fight for, the politics you promote, will only lead to this. Think about it. Alright, let's get into it. The Daily Mail is a rag. Usually not worth the paper it's printed on, but hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day, and recently they published a very enlightening investigative article on the ethnic makeup of Savile Town. I didn't think I could be shocked or taken aback by anything I read in the news anymore, but I have to admit that this story kinda froze me a bit. Like I said, it's the clearest visualization of our future I've ever seen in England. Just above 1% of the town's inhabitants are white British. This is a town in England, by the way. Have I made that point clear? Already, this is proof enough of the globalist left's sinister agenda for the West. Call me old-fashioned, call me a bigot, call me a fascist, call me a racist. But I happen to hold the belief that the native people of a land should never be made a minority within it. Shoot me. However, that doesn't seem to matter to our opponents, who would mark a place like Savile Town as an example of the beautiful diversity they crave, despite it being one of the most ethnically homogenous areas in the entire country. Funny how that works out, isn't it? It seems irony is completely lost on them. But as we all know, diversity is a fake word. All it means is less white people. And this is an obvious example of that. Like I always say, if we, as white European people, travel to Pakistan and turn some of their towns into European ethnic enclaves, that wouldn't be called diversity. That would be called colonialism. When it happens to us though, Well, sit down, shut up, swallow the blue pill, play your video games. Nothing to see here. You're an alarmist bigot. Here's the Savile Town under-15s football team, for instance. As you can see, it's very diverse indeed. But I can hear the counter-arguments flooding my way now. Daniel, ethnicity or race doesn't matter, neither do demographics really, as long as British culture is upheld by these people and they believe in the same values as us, no harm, no foul. Well, unfortunately, I don't share the Ben Shapiro approach to this issue, as I believe culture and ideology are also tied to group identity in all the forms that manifests. And if that group grows to such a scale, their belief systems will encompass everything too. But in Savile Town, this is clearly amplified since the dominant group is Islamic. As we all know, Islamic ideology is fundamentally anti-Western in its nature. Their societies don't resemble ours in any way. They have differing legal systems, a strong social hierarchy that would drive the feminists mad if it was white people. And their religion transcends spirituality. It's an all-engulfing political structure that dictates every area of day-to-day life. So it's not surprising to learn that as the Muslim population in Savile Town has risen, the culture of the place has been completely eradicated. I quote from the article. Stand in Savile Town, as I have, and you will see scores of boys in Islamic robes walking to and from lessons at the mosque's madrasa school, where for hours at a time they rote-learn the Quran by heart. And distressingly, every girl I saw, even those of 6 and 7 playing in the park, was wrapped up in a hijab and shoulder-to-toe gown, lest a man glimpse her flesh. 8 of the 9 pubs in the area have shut because there are hardly any local customers who drink alcohol. The hair salon, once giving stern perms to Yorkshire ladies, closed down long ago. The Western grocery and clothes shops too. Needless to say, with nowhere to socialise or shop for what they like, the local white folk departed, first in a trickle, then in a torrent. Soon, the new arrivals had built the mosque, which is designated to accommodate 4,000 worshippers. Today, a Sharia court nearby, criticised in a House of Lords report for discriminating against women in divorce and matrimonial disputes, does brisk business espousing the strict Islamic justice code. Notice how the House of Lords criticised the Sharia court, yet proposed no action to actually deal with it. In fact, earlier this year, after a 2-year review into the subject of Sharia courts and councils, the Home Secretary, Amber Rudd at the time, was urged to set up an official body to regulate them, as women essentially get no rights when using them. She decided to reject this proposal, however, stating it would legitimise Islamic law. Sharia law has no jurisdiction in the UK, and we would not facilitate or endorse regulation which could present councils as an alternative to UK laws. Brilliant excuse, isn't it? Oh yeah, Sharia courts shouldn't be officially recognised in the UK, God no. Only British law should be the law of the land. So even though we know Sharia courts are operating anyway, we won't bother to combat them because doing so would actually make them legitimate. Yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying, we're scared to approach this subject, let's move on quickly please, we're not racist, we promise. That's all it is. But I agree that regulation isn't the solution here. Only the complete dismantling of them is. According to the article, the Deobandi sect of Islam has influence over many of the Muslims within Savile Town. Deobandis believe in a back-to-basics model of Islam, where they try to emulate the Prophet Muhammad's actions in life as closely as possible. In simple terms, they're trying to live as if it's still the 7th century. One famous spokesman of the sect, Muhammad Pandor, was quoted, "If Muhammad did not do it, we don't do it." I'm assuming this also means that anything Muhammad did do, they do it too? Well, Muhammad did many things during his life, and some of those things are best confined to the 7th century, lads. You know, like having sex with children. Oh, damn it! I can't say that now, can I? As the European Court of Human Rights have recently declared that calling Muhammad a paedophile is not covered by freedom of speech. Oh well, I'm done for. Put me in cuffs already. Even though, you know, it's the truth. A fact. Written in Islamic texts for all to see. Muhammad married a girl when she was 6, had sex with her when she was 9, but oh no, we can't call him a paedophile. That would be culturally insensitive, don't you know? And is likely to incite religious intolerance. Well, shame on me for being intolerant towards child rape. I better buck my ideas up, eh? Deobandi Muslims are said to run nearly half of the 1,600 registered mosques in Britain, which is, shall we say, concerning when you consider that they also believe they have a divine right to wage jihad in order to protect Muslims in all countries all over the world whenever they want. Brilliant. It might go some way in explaining why Pakistani men are so overrepresented in raping British girls in gangs. I'm just spitballing here, guys, but you know what? I wouldn't want to actually tackle this problem with official policy because I wouldn't want to legitimise it. So, there. Savile Town is a picture of Britain from the future. Even the woman selling bloody ice creams is covered head to toe in a niqab. Just out of interest, how does one eat an ice cream wearing one of those things? Is it a similar technique to the one these women are using to eat spaghetti? Not very practical, is it? I think you're gonna need to pull out the DAS later on, love. I'll return to my earlier questions for any liberals watching. Is this what diversity looks like to you? Would you be happy if this happened all over the country? Will you stand by and voluntarily allow yourself to become a minority in your own town, city, country? All in the name of not being called Islamophobic? Of being so self-loathing that you're white? Tell me, please, I need to know. This is a betrayal of the British people. A sinister ploy to remove us from our own homes. Savile Town isn't an English town anymore, it's been conquered, and the invaders didn't even have to fire a shot because the gates were opened for them. The British government, both Labour and the Conservatives, over the course of decades, and the people behind the scenes who back them, engineered all of this. They helped them every step of the way, bent over backwards to fulfill their needs and desires, all the while stabbing the British people in the back, as they always do and have done. This has to be stopped and reversed. No more Islamic immigration of any kind. A complete halt to it. For the foreign-born individuals that are already here, repatriation must be on the table. Paying them all to leave is a hell of a lot cheaper than allowing them to stay to drain our system. It's also a small price to pay to save our nation, I'm sure you'll agree. And as you can probably tell, I'm almost at the end of my rope here. It seems like every day I'm seeing another town, another city fall into the hands of outsiders, all the while the useful idiots of the left applaud and pat themselves on the back before returning to their own all-white neighbourhoods, of course, and never thinking about it again, never thinking about the consequences they've inflicted on us. I'd like to openly challenge political parties like UKIP and For Britain to bring these issues to the front as soon as possible. Don't be scared of the press, the media, the Twitter wankers. Introduce a repatriation policy and get serious about it. These people can't be converted from their ideology. They won't give it up to become a secular Brit. They won't fly the Union Jack or sing God Save the Queen at football matches. To think this is even remotely possible is a fantasy, nothing more. Get it done. At least talk about it as a possibility. You'll find more support for it than you think, believe me. Otherwise, all we'll do is sit on the sidelines and watch England disappear, fade into barbarism, dragged back to the 7th century, all in the name of tolerance, openness, and diversity. Well, not in my name. Thank you all very much for watching once again. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so in a few ways. The first way is via PayPal. Link is down below. Or you can become a patron of mine. $5 a month or more will get your name at the end of every single one of my videos as a credit. Like these gorgeous, beautiful people here. Thank you all so very much. You guys keep this channel going. I tell you this every week, but I really, really appreciate it. Cheers. Alright, I'll see you later in the week. Adios.